How's it going, everybody? Nerds Rising here, and welcome back to the Nerd Cave. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at my expert push in the Halloween Cup, and let me just tell you folks, this team right here is very, very strong. It might seem like it's a little glassy, it might seem a little bit off meta, but I have gone up over 220 elo in the last 2 days, and had basically all positive sets except for one. Now, the team does function as an ABB style team, where Zweilous on the lead is really only weak to counter users and fairy types, and there's really not a lot of fairy types out there other than Carbink, so the backline naturally has to be double strong against Carbink, with Shadow Nidoqueen being basically the hardest check in the meta to the Carbink, and then Shadow Scizor is also a pretty nice check to Carbink, but it's also very versatile on the safe switch, where its really only true weakness is going to be fire, and there's not really hardly any fire out there. I didn't see a single Alola Marowak, and I saw a couple Mawiles, but neither of them were running the Fire Fang, so it's honestly very versatile. On Switch, you can basically either guarantee a shield or take back Switch in almost all the matchups, so you guys are going to see this thing put in so much work, and honestly, even though I think I will probably make the thumbnail after the Scizor, I have to say that Zweilous was the MVP of the team, just because it completely crushes Greninja, which is basically on like 75% of teams. And to be fair, Greninja is super strong, so I'm not hating on anybody using it, but Zweilous fully walls all of Greninja's charge moves, and it also happens to beat all the ghost types as well. And it's just one of the rare Pokemon, I think, in this meta that crushes other dark types and ghost types. So you guys are going to see Zweilous put in a ton of work. You're going to see Scizor on the safe switch just completely destroy some things. And let's get into the battles here, and let's take a look at it. And actually, before we get into them real quick, I want to say briefly, huge thank you to everyone in the community. I just hit 3K. Right after I made the last video, I hit 3K subs, so thank you to everyone who's been supporting my channel for a while. If you're new to the channel, thank you as well for tuning in. I truly do enjoy what I do, guys. I am a part-time content creator, but I have a ton of fun making content, and that's really why I'm out here doing it, just for fun, my own enjoyment, and just to bring some cool battles to the community. So let's get into the battles here. I will have these time marks, so if you guys are wondering how I play out of like certain leads, feel free to skip through the video. I actually do have these in chronological order, which I don't always do, so you will see me kind of learn how to play the team as it goes. Whereas in this first battle here, we're playing against a Buzzwole. I didn't see too many Buzzwoles, but what I've discovered when you face a counter user, it's better just to stay in with the Zweilous, because the Scizor doesn't have the best counter user matchups typically, and what you're going to see with this team is our backline was actually double strong against their backline. So if we would have just stayed into the Buzzwole there, maybe even forced a shield with the Body Slam, and then just basically farm down the Buzzwole with our Nidoqueen, they have a Carbink in the back, and basically our Zweilous had nowhere to run against this team. They do have a Charjabug as their final Pokemon, which Zweilous does pretty decent against. Scizor doesn't one-shot, and it's a pretty tough Volt Switch down for the opponent, but as you're seeing, our backline basically crushes their backline, so Shadow Nidoqueen could have just swept this entire team, but we do end up making it a little bit tricky for ourselves by switching out of the lead and basically sacrificing our Scizor. We do end up pulling off the win, as you're going to see, just because Shadow Nidoqueen is too oppressive here in the endgame, and their poor Carbink is actually going to end up losing to his Zweilous, I think. A little bit of a BM happening here, but yeah, the game would have been easier if I just would have stayed in. So if you see a Buzzwole or you see a Toxicroak, that's the more common counter user that you're going to see is Toxicroak. Just stay in and just let your Zweilous go down. You'll almost always be able to, at the very least, force a shield advantage in that matchup. So next battle, we see a Golisopod. Another somewhat uncommon Pokemon. I did see it a couple times. Again, this is one where I kind of learned, I just decided to stay in here, and they actually do us a favor, and they switch out into a Wormadam Trash, which is definitely not a good answer to Zweilous, because despite the fact that they have Bug Buzz, it takes them quite a while to get through the charge moves, and the confusions are obviously going to be double resisted there, so we actually make a somewhat unnecessary catch onto the Scizor. Maybe I should have just stayed in there, but I decided to make the catch, and as you guys see, that's a double resisted Bug Buzz, and it still does like half of Shadow Scizor's health. That just shows you how dang glassy this thing is, guys. It is super, super glassy, but that is also why it is extremely good, because basically an Scizor or Night Slash plus some Bullet Punches are going to basically KO a lot of things in the meta. So we do throw our Body Slam right away. They did have the move. I knew I would lose CMP, but this is not going to quite KO us anyway. And then I believe Shadow Nidoqueen is going to close this game out. They've got a Carbink in the back, and the triple strong to Carbink backline proved honestly to be super massive in this meta, guys, because you know, when I build teams, I typically look at the PvPoke rankings. Now, I rarely actually use like the top couple Pokemon. I do believe that the Shadow Nidoqueen is towards the top of the charts, but what I do is I look and see what's at the top, and I know Carbink has already been absolutely everywhere in the Open Great League, so I was thinking I need to have a team that has at least 2 answers to Carbink, because the last thing I want to do is come out here with a team that's not prepared for Carbink and just get swept by a Carbink, and that is actually what I saw. Surprisingly, you know, sometimes when you come into a team building situation and you know, you're trying to have answers for a certain Pokemon, you never actually see it, and that's kind of what I was expecting, because I've already been super annoyed at Carbink in the Open Great League, but surprisingly, I actually saw a ton of Carbinks, and this backline just absolutely crapped on some Carbinks, which was very, very satisfying, guys. And the other thing that this team did was completely crap on some poor Greninja leads, and the other thing that you guys are seeing is I'm running the Scizor on the Scizor, which I believe PvPoke actually recommends Night Slash and Iron Head, but as you guys just saw there, that Greninja did not respect the Scizor whatsoever, and we fully one-shotted. I guess it was at half health, but Scizor does one-shot a Greninja from full health from a Shadow Scizor, as you can imagine, and I did take a couple by surprise and one-shot them from full health. So if you're going to run Scizor, especially on the safe switch, you really have to have Scizor, in my opinion. There really weren't hardly any times at all where I wanted Iron Head and didn't have it. But anyway, as you guys are seeing, I have these in order of leads. So the last lead was a Greninja, this lead was a Greninja as well, and Scab is a very tricky core breaker for the team. I didn't see too many of them, but occasionally when they would switch in, I decided the best way to play it was to stay in with the Zweilous initially and either get a shield or get some chip damage and then switch into the Scizor, because even though Scizor doesn't have the best matchup there, it does outpace the S-Cab, and honestly, after some bullet punches, a Night Slash basically KOs the S-Cab, because S-Cab is super glassy. So we do maintain switch advantage here, which is great, because our Zweilous is still aligned to their Greninja, and we're going to get this last shield here with the Body Slam. Save enough health to where we're not going to get Water Shuriken down. Bring in the Shadow Nidoqueen, and the opponent is basically going to have to throw right away as soon as they get the energy. So I'm going to shield up, actually, throw the Fang, and then basically my poison jabs are going to be so oppressive that they're going to be forced to throw again right away, and then Zweilous is just going to farm them all the way down with Dragon Breath. And that's the nice thing about this meta, is other than the occasional Fairy type like Carbink and the very rare Steel type, there's really not a whole lot that resists Dragon Breath, so Dragon Breath just absolutely shred through these teams. And as you guys see, we have another Greninja lead, and oftentimes, guys, I found that opponents just had absolutely no idea what to do when they saw Zweilous on the lead, because again, it core breaks a lot of the dark types and ghost types, and also things like Golbat that have like a Shadow Ball type move as their nuke, where they just really have absolutely nowhere to go, guys. So as you guys see, they're double weak to the Zweilous, and now that basically our switch clocks are misaligned here, I can switch out of this matchup, preserve the Zweilous for the Greninja, bring in the Nidoqueen, and I bring in the Nidoqueen here because it's the weakest thing to the Greninja. We don't really have a way to one-shot it unless we can get to an Earth Power, but by that time, they've already made like 2 Hydro Cannons by the time we make it to an Earth Power. So we basically just sacrifice the Nidoqueen to the Mawile there. We have a shield advantage. We still have our Zweilous. We're not going to get Water Shuriken down, and Zweilous is going to absolutely destroy this poor Greninja in the back. And I don't even think we show him the Scizor in this matchup. Or no, we do show him the Scizor. We farm down the Mawile Duck because the Mawile is still alive in the back. But yeah, we're just going to basically 2-shield and bullet punch this thing all the way down. And despite the fact that the Mawile is a Steel type, since it's part Fairy, the bullet punches are doing neutral. And as you guys can see, the bullet punches just completely shred a lot of things. So we take a win there. And basically with this team, what I found is if you see a Greninja on the lead, you just win in most situations. And now we're going to see a couple Toxicroak leads, which are very difficult to play out of. But what I've found is that oftentimes Toxicroak leads are pretty weak to the Nidoqueen in the back. So what I decided to do, like I mentioned in the lead with a Buzzwole, it's best to just stay in with your Zweilous, sacrifice it, and as you see there, I managed to get a shield advantage, and I managed to get the Toxicroak below half health, and now I can come in with the Shadow Nidoqueen, shield once, fully farm all the way down, and come out with over an Earth Power banked. And there's really not a lot of things in this meta that want to take a Shadow Earth Power, and they do come in with Umbreon, which is one of the few things that can actually tank it, but this is not like a super dominant matchup against the Nidoqueen, which tells me that they probably don't have something like a Greninja, which tells me that my Scizor is just going to absolutely destroy this backline most likely. And sure enough, it's a Carbink. And here's where you guys are about to see some double super effective bullet punches. Look at those bullet punches, absolutely destroy the Carbink, guys. Carbink is one of the bulkiest Pokemon in the game, and Scizor just completely crushes it into the ground. You love to see it. So we take the win despite the hard counter lead, and in the next battle we see another, I wouldn't say hard counter I guess, but another lost lead into the Toxicroak there. As you guys saw, we tanked the Mud Bomb there. We throw our Body Slam after one Dragon Breath for proper timing, just to maximize our Dragon Breath damage. And again, we're going to come in with the Shadow Nidoqueen here, farm this thing all the way down, shield once, and come out with a ton of loaded energy. And I did play this out a couple different ways. I did come in and farm down with the Scizor a couple times as well, and I just found that the Nidoqueen with energy was just a little bit better than the Scizor, and they actually do have a Greninja here, but the nice thing is we still have a shield, and we can actually come in here, get their shield with the Earth Power, and then outpace them just barely to the X-Scizor. This is easily going to be one-shotting the Greninja, and what do they have in the back? It's another Carbink, guys, and that is a common team I saw. A Toxicroak on the lead with a Carbink in the back, and my backline does not give a crap about your damn Carbink. So we take the win there. We see a Gengar lead in the next battle, and like I mentioned before, this is just another situation where we see how good Zweilous is, because it just core ranks so many team guys. The Gengar obviously hates seeing Zweilous, and Umbreon actually has a losing matchup to Zweilous as well, because it can actually tank two, what am I trying to say? It can tank two Last Resorts because the Snarls are resisted. And here, I throw the Earth Power on CMP. The reason I bring in the Nidoqueen to the Umbreon is because the Nidoqueen has the worst matchup against the Gengar, because our poison moves are going to be double resisted. And by doing that, I successfully have basically got some utility out of that Nidoqueen before the Gengar comes back in and farms it down. So now we still have a lot of work to do because they have a Toxapex in the back, which is very, very bulky. But the nice thing is these poison jabs are going to be double resisted here. And even though the Scizor is super glassy and that Brine does over half of our health, which is extremely embarrassing, we can actually tank it and we're not really going to be in farm down range. So we can basically just match their shields here pretty comfortably, maintain alignment, and they're going to be switching in their Gengar at some point to try to snipe us, but it doesn't really matter even if they do, because we do have a lot of energy on the Zweilous, and we are going to start forcing their shields here. They do bring back in the Gengar. We just barely make the move here, but I don't really think it would have mattered anyway, because if we wouldn't have gotten to that Night Slash on the Scizor, we could have just come in, shielded once, farmed them all the way down with Dragon Breath, and then double body slam the Toxapex in the back, and that would have been a GG either way. So as you're seeing, if the opponent has a Ghost type and a Dark type on the team, you're looking pretty strong with the Greninja, as my cat is sitting over there like chomping on something right next to me, so sorry if you guys can hear that. But on next battle here, we have a Charjabug on the lead. And I did kind of play these a little bit differently each time against the Charjabug. But what I found basically is, if you have a Charjabug on the lead, you could pretty much guarantee that the opponent has some really hard checks to Nidoqueen in the back, because Nidoqueen is one of the more common ground types that's out there. So the best way I decided to play that was basically to, at some point, try to make a catch of the Charjabug's move onto the Nidoqueen, because we know the Nidoqueen's going to get hard checked already, so we might as well utilize it as a catch to waste some of their energy. Because again, if I stay in with the Zweilous and commit shields and things, and then end up having the Nidoqueen in the back, it's going to get hard checked by something. So as you guys see there, they had two really good answers to the Nidoqueen, so by catching that move on the Charjabug, I was able to get some utility out of it, and this one actually ends up being extremely close. The opponent plays this very well. They recognize there's no reason to throw a move, so they commit to the full farm down, and on like 2 HP, our Scizor clutches it out, makes it to 3 Night Slashes, and gets the unnecessary boost for the road as well. And we actually 2 Shield Flex on the opponent. Now, obviously they had all the energy in the world there, but they realized there was no reason for them to throw it, because they were just going to get farmed down if they did. So, next battle, we see the Zweilous Mirror. I saw very, very few Zweilos's, but I kept this one in here because this is a really crazy game. We see the Zweilous Mirror. The opponent throws right away. I make the catch onto the Scizor, and they're going to answer us with a Dust Plop. Now here, I throw after 5, which isn't the best timing, but I recognized that I was going to get outpaced to a potential Shadow Punch if I didn't throw right away. So I throw right away, and I believe they actually go for the Ice Punch here, which doesn't quite KO, but it might actually be a little bit worse. But fortunately, I do make the second Night Slash, so I am going to get a shield here, but they are going to get a very nice farm down. And if they have Ice Punch, which they've already shown us they do, this will do a lot of damage to the Zweilous here. So I know that they're going to be probably trying to snipe me right away after they land this Ice Punch. I think I shield one. I think I let the next one go. I was going to get to the farm down here, but now I'm going to instantly pivot into the Nidoqueen, expecting them to try to snipe, and that's exactly what happens. And now, again, I'm recognizing they're probably going to go for the CMP tie, so I go for the extra there, and sure enough, they do try to go for CMP, but we don't throw our move. We farm them all the way down, and what is their back Pokemon going to be? It's actually a Haunter, which is really, really bad, but guys, check this out. We're going to get the shield, the Earth Power here, and I commit to the Earth Power there. I don't want to potentially bait and have that be a loose con, and they know I'm almost at another Earth Power, so they're forced to throw here. But check this out, our Zweilous is on like 1 HP. We have the Dark Pulse, we're going to one-shot the Haunter, and 1 Hex doesn't KO. We survive with literally 1 HP, so I guess we probably had 2 HP before, but we tank the Hex, and we survive with 1 HP, and we Dragon Breath farm down the Dusclops there. So crazy win in that battle. And in the next one, we see another Core Breaker, Froslass into Zweilous, and this is actually... on paper, it seems like it'd be a really rough matchup for Zweilous, but Zweilous actually wins the 2 shields here just because those Dragon Breaths are just so oppressive, and they bring in an Umbreon, which isn't the best situation for us, but again, I recognize that my Nidoqueen has the worst matchup against their lead. Similar to, I believe it was was it the Wormadam Trash? I don't remember. There was a lead where we basically just sacked the Nidoqueen because we wanted to get some utility out of it. Maybe that was a Charjabug, but yeah, here we just bring it in. And even if they have Psychic, which I don't think they did, I truly don't care if they take me out here, because my Nidoqueen is going to get absolutely destroyed by the Froslass, and my remaining 2 Pokemon have some play against the Froslass, so it doesn't really matter to me if the Zweilous or the Scizor is aligned to it, and they do bring back in the Froslass here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get their shield, and I'm going to bring in the Scizor to get some bullet punches off, and they've got a Greninja in the back, and all I have to do here is get their shield, and they actually let it go. Oh my gosh, that was one of the ones where they let it go. But either way, I think we've been okay, because if they would have shielded that, I could have just brought in the Zweilous and body slammed the Greninja and then Dragon Breathed it down, but they did not respect the X-Scissor there, and we take it out, and that's going to be a GG. And I didn't catch the lead in this one. I'm trying to remember what it was, but they bring in a Swalot, a shiny Swalot as well, into our X-Scissor Shadow. I don't know why I'm saying X-Scissor, but I keep getting mixed up, guys. Scizor and X-Scissor are so similar that I'm like getting my tongue twisted here, but we bring our Scizor in, and they answer it with a Swalot. That is what I'm trying to say, and Swalot is what I was trying to say after the last 30 seconds of stumbling over my words, is not an answer to the Scizor, as you guys saw, because it has all resisted charge moves. So we easily maintain alignment there, and now we have our Zweilous into Mandibuzz. And this is another matchup where Zweilous is very dominant, especially if they're running Snarl. And it was it a Toxapex lead? I think the Toxapex was on the lead there. Yeah, it was a Toxapex lead. And now we can align our Nidoqueen here to the Toxapex. And I believe here I stay in to force them to throw the Brine. And now I will bring in the Nidoqueen. And I'm realizing here that they have 2 shields still. And there's not really a reason for me to go for the Earth Power at this point, because by the time I get there, they're going to be in a range where we can just do what Nidoqueen does best. And that is just tap, 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 Poison Fang, tap, 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 and that is exactly what's going to happen, guys. As you saw, they let the Poison Fang go. I mean, they kind of had to. They recognized that the future ones would do more, but by letting that go, now they're just going to get farmed all the way down. And they're probably going to lose this matchup with Shield still in play. And yeah, their Mandibuzz does have a little bit of energy, but this is not going to be one-shotting the Shadow Nidoqueen. Shadow Nidoqueen is fairly glassy, but it does tank some charge moves, and they're going to get farmed all the way down. And I had the back-to-back there, which is why I threw it. No reason to throw until I get to the back-to-back there, and they recognize at the back-to-back there, I cannot speak, and they just let it go, and they can see the match. So, very good game to the opponent there. And I believe we're into the last couple battles, guys, and I saved some of the best ones for last, because I'm sure those of you guys who are watching this were wondering, what do you do if you see a Carbink on the lead? And we're going to see a couple Carbink leads now. And what you're going to see is, depending on what they bring in, you always want to try to fight for Switch if you can, because like there's just nothing that Zweilous can do against the Carbink. So if you can't take back Switch, it does get a little bit tricky. And I don't remember if I take back Switch here. I don't remember if this is one of the ones that I lost, but I should probably have gone for the Night Slash on the second one there. And I think what I recognized there is that the Mandibuzz was going to farm me down, and the opponent, I think, misclicks there, and they actually bring in the Carbink. So let's rewind that again. I'm not sure if I think what I was seeing here is my Scizor was actually going to get taken out here if I would have stayed in, because I think I shield and their snarls were just getting me so low. I go for the Scizor here. I probably should have baited with a Night Slash, because I think if I would have baited, I would have made another Night Slash before I got farmed all the way down. Because as you're going to see, I think I switch out just before I get there, recognizing I'm going to get farmed down. But I think if I would have baited there, I would have made it. And I aggressively switch into the Nidoqueen here, and I think the opponent just misclicks. Either that or they were double weak to the Nidoqueen in the back, but it doesn't really make sense if they were double weak there. So I take a pretty lucky win there, and that was actually the first Carbink lead that I saw. And I learned to play it better in future matchups, which you're going to see here. I switch in here to the Scizor, and the opponent is a little bit slow on the swap, which tells me they probably don't have the best answer. And they do have a Toxapex in the back, and after the rock throw damage, I am now in brine range, which is a little bit unfortunate, but I believe since they stayed in long enough here, I should actually be able to get to enough Night Slashes here, plus the Bullet Punches, to just barely outpace them. Now, I need to make 3 more still, but they stayed in for so long. I have such a massive energy head start that I think I should be able to do this, and I don't quite think that their resisted poison jabs are going to farm me all the way down. So I farm up just before they get to the back, or just before I get to the back-to-back here. I'm like 2 or 3 away from the back-to-back, and they just straight up recognized there that I was going to basically get to another one before they made another brine. So I actually really liked that play by them, recognizing I was going to farm them down anyway, so they just might as well take their shield advantage. So they take their shield advantage, and they've got a Dragalge in the back, and this is going to be very difficult. Fortunately, it doesn't have Dragon Tail, but this is going to be a very close matchup here. Aqua Tail is going to take me out here, but I'm going to have to farm down this Dragalge, survive the Aqua Tail here, and still get to a move against the Carbink. And I believe the Carbink does have a Rock Slide banked here, so can we live it? Yes, we barely live it, and now can we live this Rock Slide and still make it to the Earth Power? This is going to be extremely close, and we just barely make it on minimal HP, and we come back from this time a hard counter lead, and we take the win. And I did face quite a few Carbink leads, guys, and I only lost to 1, if you can believe that. So this team does have play against the Carbink lead, and I believe I saved a loss for the end here into a Poniard. So we had a pretty good lead to start with, but the opponent switches into a Poniard, and I just truly had absolutely no idea what to do, guys. I truly didn't. And what you're going to see is, I want to say it was a Jellicent lead, if I'm remembering correctly, and I'm realizing here that I probably need to maintain switch. Because if my Shadow Nidoqueen gets aligned to the Jellicent, I'm going to be in really big trouble. But what I'm realizing is these double resisted Fury Cutters are just absolutely shredding my poor Scizor here, and the opponent's very spicy Poniard is going to take back switch advantage here, and now that means our Zweilous is going to be aligned to probably their hard check to it in the back, because if they have a Jellicent in the back or on the lead, you know they have answers to Dark in the back. So I'm expecting it to be a Carbink, but unfortunately it's a Shadow Mawile, which might even be worse, and yeah, I surrendered that battle. So Nerds Rising has I don't want to say no shame. I have shame, guys, but I am absolutely okay with surrendering if I'm losing. And I didn't want to waste the opponent's time there because they had that game in the bag. As soon as I lost alignment there, I basically lost the game. So I am totally okay with surrendering when it's a situation like that where the game's over and I'm hard countered. And it was my own doing. I gave up switch advantage by not playing it particularly well there. So hats off to the opponent there. Very nice win. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you are looking to use this team, I hope that these battles will kind of show you how to play out of different leads. Now, I didn't cover every single lead, obviously. Otherwise, that'd be like a probably hour-long video. But let me know in the comments if you're wondering, how to play against a certain thing. But again, guys, this team is super, super dominant. I went up 220 elo in 2 days, and I only had 1 negative set. And it was actually just me completely throwing every single battle. I actually went 0-5 after completely crushing it with like 5-0s, 4-1s, like a ton of positive sets. I had a random 0-5 in the middle of that amazing streak, which I was like, I honestly, like, there was a couple of matches where I just completely threw them by like misclicking and things, and I actually went to bed after that set because I was just like, man, I am playing like absolute shit. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. If you are new to the channel and you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing, because the more subscribers we can get, the more Pokemon my wife will let me play.